Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new episode of Entrepreneurship Lab. This is your host, Nevena Bajalac, welcoming you once again to the new episode where we bring you exciting guests, experts in different areas who will help you on your entrepreneurship journey. Today, I'm very excited because we're welcoming a guest all the way from Texas. His name is Taylor, and Taylor is a lawyer. He owns VG Title Commercial Title Company in Texas, which closes multi-million-dollar projects all over United States. And Taylor is distinguished estate planning and probate attorney with huge experience in this area. And the reason I wanted to have Taylor here today is because I think it's very important to learn about estate planning, trust funds, and as you build wealth as entrepreneurs in your business, how you can protect your wealth and how you can pass it to your children if that's what you desire. Taylor, thank you for being here today and taking the time to join us.
Well, thank you for having me on. And
Taylor, I didn't say your last name. It's Willingham, right? Sorry, I just started talking, and Taylor Willingham. I'm just gonna make an official introduction.
Yes, that is correct. That's how you say it.
Okay, perfect, Taylor. So tell us a bit more about you. I mean, you're an entrepreneur yourself. You're a lawyer, but you build a successful practice. So tell us a little bit about your journey. I would love to hear that.
So yeah, I started my law firm in 2009 when everything blew up in America. I'm sure it blew up throughout the whole world. And I graduated law school, came out, got my first law job, making $10 an hour. And that didn't work out very well. And so I decided I could run my own law firm a lot better than making $10 an hour. So I'm not advising this as a good way to start a business, but I started my law firm with credit cards. So I went out and I had 2 kids, I had a wife. She was working for GNC, which is a health supplement company, and wasn't making very much. But this is the way that we had to do it because we moved to a city. I actually had a job offer to move to a city and start a law firm for somebody else, but that got pulled right before I moved there. And so I jumped out and I had to make it work. I mean, I really had no choice. Like sometimes the best thing that happens to you is you have to make something work. And that was my beginning of my journey of going through. First 2 years were very rocky. And then in the second year, things started to come together.
Yes. And tell us, I know you're having a lot of services in your company, but today we're going to talk more about estate planning, trust funds. But what are some things that you are doing? And are you having a lot of different experts now in your company? Maybe tell us how many employees you have. Is it a big firm? What have you built since 2009, 2011?
So what ended up happening along my journey is I was an attorney. I was kind of doing everything. One of the things that I was doing was suing title companies and mortgage companies at the very beginning, because when the market blew up in 2009, that was kind of the big thing that happened. And in that process of litigating against title companies, I got to know kind of what they did. I had no idea what a title company was, and I just didn't know why we needed them or whatever. And anyway, through that process, I got to know. And when I was deposing one of the head people of a company called Chicago Title, he said, well, do you want to become a fee attorney? It was kind of almost like an exchange. Stop suing us and join us. And I wasn't winning these lawsuits. So I was like, you know what, maybe I should just become get in bed with the enemy, because they seem to make money. I'm not making money. So that was what led me into starting the title company that I have now. So I have 2 main companies. One is the law firm, and then one is the title company. And I remember going back to the office. I had my really good friend Charlie Malolo. He came out of law school too. We just worked together, and he didn't have a job. So he's just like, I'll just work with you. We'll figure this out. And I came back and said, hey, you're going to be a fee attorney. And that's how the law firm got started. And then in 2016, we became our own title company called WG Title. And basically what a title company does is when you buy a piece of property in the United States, I think it's the same. I'm pretty sure the concept's similar in like England, but we want to make sure that the person selling you that property actually owns that property. And they don't have a bunch of liens and different things. So that's what a title company does in America, is we exchange the money and we make sure that that person selling to you isn't trying to rob you. So
you're in between the buyer and the seller, making sure the paperwork, everything is legal. So yes.
Yeah. So
All
I have
right.
those two companies, and when you take them both together right now, we have about 22 employees.
Okay, that's amazing. I love that. So I would love for you to explain, I actually listened to some of your interviews, and you talked about difference between the will and the trust. So can you explain for people listening, what is the difference between will and the trust?
Yeah, so actually I wrote a whole book on this. And I call it, Do I Need a Will or a Trust? Because everybody always asks me that question, and it's a very good question because they're very different things. Wills are documents that have been done. We have found wills in ancient Egypt, written during ancient Egyptian times. So they've been around for a very, very long time. As long as writing, it appears that we have been having people write wills. But that just says, when I pass away, this is who I want to get my property. And the other thing that we put in wills now that's very important is, and this person will be in charge. We refer to that as an executor. So almost every nation, every Western nation, in the Middle East too, and most places, they use the concept of creating a will to leave your property to who you want to. Now, trusts are very different. Trusts are combined with wills, and people think of them together because they're often created together by attorneys. But what a trust is, it's a legal concept that was developed. It's very old too. We find evidence of it in ancient Crete, but really it got developed with William the Conqueror. And when he came over and took over England, and it was this idea, once again, trying to avoid taxes. People don't want to pay taxes. It's always been the story from the beginning of time. But what it did is you're dividing property and you're giving legal interest to one person and a beneficial interest to another person. Now, I just got really technical there. And sometimes people go, oh my gosh, this is boring as can be. I don't want to listen to this. But really what you're doing is you're saying, I want this person to manage the property, but I want to be for the benefit of this person. And so that's that brilliant idea that was born allows us to do thousands and thousands of different things and has created a whole area that most people just don't understand is really beneficial, especially super wealthy people. Most of our world's wealth is held in secret trusts that certain people manage for the benefit of other people. So it's very beneficial when you understand the concept because it can really help propel things into the future for your family and for your loved ones.
Yeah. So for example, Taylor, if I own a house and I have 2 children, I want them to benefit from this. I want to understand this. I want to make it a trust, right? So how am I avoiding taxes, or is this also after my passing, or they have the right to benefit if I'm renting that house? Can you explain us a little bit more of that? Or who am I also appointing for that legal part? Does it has to be like a company that manages trust, or how does that work?
So you can pick, at least in America, you can pick anybody to be your trustee that you want to be in charge. So to simplify the idea, I mean, the word explains what it is. It's a trust. Who do you trust to actually implement the plan that you want? Trusts really are the only way that we can plan in the future after we are gone. Because wills just say, when I die, this is who gets the property. A trust is, here's actually the plan that I want, and this is the person that I want to carry that plan out. We call that the trustee. So especially when you have little children, it's very important because in America, if you don't create a trust, the court's going to do it if you pass away and have little kids. They're going to create a trust for them because they're going to put someone in charge of their the money for the kids because they can't hold it for themselves. They can't do things.
Yes.
So that concept is used, yes, in that all the time, which especially little children. Of course, once they're over 18, the court in America, the courts give them their money. But the other thing is like, well, how does that avoid taxes? And right now in America, it's not as big of a deal because our estate tax amount is pretty high now. You have to make over you have to have over $13 million in assets in order to start having an estate tax issue in the United States. Now that changes in 2016. It's going to go back to 6 million. But other countries, it's much lower, like in Europe and different places. And so if you know when you pass away, half of everything that you've made during your life is going to be given away to the government because you didn't prepare, it makes people go, I probably should do something in one legal structure that has been used. And every country's different. I can't give you a wide range of exactly what to do.
Yeah,
you have to talk to an attorney, but one structure that is used is the trust to handle that, to get property out of your estate so you don't have to pay those taxes. Now you're in Dubai. So Dubai has structured themselves to not have these issues. So people move there and want to live there.
yes.
But old places, in the United States, it's like the East and West Coast. Those are the old states. They have estate taxes. Europe, the old countries, they have estate taxes because people are there. They don't have to attract people. Things are changing though. And because now those places are seeing people leave, they're trying to draw people back. So they're trying to get rid of estate taxes and different things. But those are the ideas of why you need to do it. Especially if you're an entrepreneur. One of the biggest issues of being an entrepreneur and doing this is when you pass away, the government comes in and values your property and says, oh, it's worth this much. But all of us business owners know, yeah, it might be on paper worth $10 million, but I can't sell it for that right now. No one's going to, in our environment right now, no one's going to buy it because the interest rates are so high. So like this happened with Michael Jackson. This was his estate had this huge problem, which the IRS came in and said, Michael Jackson's estate is worth 300. I don't know how much it is. I'm going to make up numbers here, but it's worth like $300 million. And they're going, well, yeah, it might be over a period of time, but we don't have $300 million in cash and we don't want to sell his likeness to some corporation. We as a family want to keep it, but we don't have enough to pay, whatever that ridiculous tax is going to be, probably about $120 million in taxes. So they had to hire really good lawyers to fight the IRS, but of course they cost a fortune and everything was being able to be negotiated out. But when you own businesses, that's the problem, is the IRS would come in and say, your business is worth this. Well, it's like, yeah, it might be on paper, but we don't want to sell.
Yes.
And that's one of the issues that's caused with the estate tax is it destroys a lot of small businesses when people pass away because people didn't think it through or plan it out. Now, every country out there has, different issues. That's why you want to talk to an estate attorney that if you own a business, it's like, okay, am I going to have this problem? Or my kids, my wife, everybody, are they going to have these issues? So.
Amazing. Thank you. So if we set a trust, how is that using the tax? Because then they cannot evaluate, or are we deciding on what the value is? Like, how is that actually benefiting with the tax? This is what I'm trying to understand. Maybe it's a very complex question. I know I'm trying to ask you.
It's a beautiful question. Those are brilliant questions. Sometimes I love it when I talk to people because they really they get the content like, this doesn't make sense. Like, what's going on here? How is it that I put this money here and all of a sudden it's not part of my estate, but if I don't do it, it is? Like, that's confusing. And really, this is the concept. People have this problem of wanting to own something, but don't understand that owning something, there's different ways of owning something. A lot of times you don't really want to own something, you want to control it. That's really the difference. Like,
Yes, which we don't know. Like, poor people don't know that. The rich people, they know it. They're like, I don't know anything on my name.
Exactly. And so that's what people are usually doing with trust, is they're giving like the beneficial interest to their kids. So they no longer own it, but they remain the trustee, which means I control it. So they'll put their business in a trust where they control it, and they get paid a salary. So they, for the rest of their lives, so they're taken care of and making sure that they can, but their kids own part of it. So now let's say you had this $20 million business. If you pass away, there's going to be a $3 million tax or $4 million tax that's going to be assessed to you. Well, if I can give half of the ownership to my kids, but still retain all the control, be able to handle everything, because I said that's what we're doing with the trust. We're legal interest, beneficial interest, we divide it. I'm keeping the legal interest. My kids are getting this beneficial interest on this half. Now the IRS has to go, well, okay, it's not yours anymore, it's the kids. You do retain some control, so we're going to value some of that control. But now there's no tax when you pass away because you're not worth 20 million, you're worth less than that 13. So it's really tricky, complicated, lawyerly stuff that people go, this sounds like weird. Like, and it is weird, but one thing that you have to understand, this is a concept that is difficult for people, is all this stuff is made up. Okay.
Yes.
It doesn't exist in reality. And that's why your brain struggles. But human beings, we have this ability. We make up things that aren't true and we believe them. For example, if I hand you $100 bill, or if I put a $100 bill in front of your face, or a banana, you will always take that $100 bill because you believe that it's worth something. You go, oh, yeah, that's worth way more than a banana. You do the same thing to a chimpanzee. They will never take the $100 bill, even if you try to teach it that $100 can buy them more bananas. They can't, chimpanzees can't get this concept, but humans, we can. We make up things. And so in the legal world, we have made up these concepts of trust and ownership of property. Like in America, when the first Europeans arrived in the Americas, they showed up, and the natives that were sitting there, they told them, we own this land. Or they would trade things. I think one of the biggest one is how it was ridiculously cheap how much the Europeans purchased New York Island from the natives. Because Native Americans, they looked at the Europeans, were like, you don't own land. How do you own that? That's just land. Like, you can't own. But the concept of land ownership had been in the old world for so long that to Europeans, it was like, of course you can own land. It makes perfect sense that you can do that. But Native Americans couldn't grasp the concept because it really is an absurd idea that you own and control. And so trusts are kind of absurd ideas. You're separating interests, but as long as we believe it, then it works. And so we're allowed to do this. And so that's a lot of what the law is made up ideas. And in the legal world, we believe it. So if you go to court, the law is going to protect you if you do it, but you have to play along with the game and go, a lot of people go, well, that's stupid. I don't think I need that. And it's kind of like, you know what? I agree. It's kind of absurd sometimes, the things we're doing. But at the end of the day, so is the concept of money. It's absurd that a piece of paper is worth more than actual things, but we believe it, so it works.
That's amazing. Yeah. And it's so powerful. Like, knowledge is so powerful, awareness, because we don't know these things. And for me, I enjoy this learning and getting different experts here, because it's so fascinating that nobody taught us these things in school and things like that. So people go and they can build something their whole life and they can lose it in a day just because they didn't know how to protect themselves. And that's why we have you here today. So I want to ask the next question about putting money on the side as a trust fund, right? That's called trust fund when you're putting money, let's say, for your children. How is that different than trust? Is trust fund only about the money, or you can give like antiques, some, I don't know, jewelry, things? What is the trust fund? And how that also helps future generations?
Yeah, so think of the trust when you're creating it, because really what a trust is a document. It's a
Yes.
document that you write up. So anything that you can think of that doesn't go against public policy is you can write up exactly what you want to happen with property. So for example, like my trust that I created for my kids, I call it a life stage trust because at certain stages of my children's life, the money is used for different things. For example, before 18, my trust is very simple. It says, I want you to take care of the kids. I want you to make sure my kids, grandkids, whatever money's in there, I want you to take care of them when they're under 18. If me and my wife pass away, or if their parents are no longer around, if it's my grandkids, I want you to make sure that a therapist is going in and checking in on them every 3 months, because I have been in so many cases where parents have passed away and the kids are abused because no one's taking care of them. No one's really watching. I want a third party to go in, even in family scenarios. I don't care if my family is taking the kid, because I've seen family treat the child poorly.
Yes, absolutely.
Then I created this concept because as I read literature in psychology about development, human beings, we develop, our brains are like programmed at certain time to express certain genes and do certain things. From the ages of 18 to 25, it's your most creative development time. Your brain opens up, you're able to expand and grow more than anything. So my trust says, okay, during those time periods, either I want you to be going to school, or you come up with a development plan with a professional, because I want you to develop yourself. Whatever that may be. Some people go on religious missions. Some people want to be part of like the Peace Corps in America, which is I go out. Some people, what I don't want them to do is vacationing, travel, good times, because after 25, your brain kind of becomes more solidified and you lose that ability. So my trustee is instructed with the trust fund money to use it for those purposes during that time. Then from 25 to 35, I put in my trust what I said. People don't have to do this, but I know that is the most important time for you to develop the habits of working hard. So we have a thing called income matching, which is every dollar the kid earns, I want you to pay $1 to that kid. I want them to learn to work because I don't want them to become a trust fund kid. They sit around, they don't do anything because
daddy left with trust fund, I can just chill, and then they spend the money, don't learn about investing, working, creating something for themselves as well.
Yeah, I had a client, she was a trust fund kid, and I do not blame her, but I use her as a great example. And she came to see me and she was like, I just got told that they're cutting my monthly allowance from $50,000 a month to $10,000 a month. So if Texas, we have oil. So you're in the Middle East, there's oil everywhere. Telling you Middle Eastern people out there, they will dry up one day. And this lady, I felt so bad for her because she's like, she had never worked a day of her life. Her grandfather had set up this trust. She had no concept of work. Her parents had no concept of work. And she spent her time, we have a place called Choctaw up the road. It's a casino. So she went to Choctaw, Las Vegas. She would go around the world and gamble. That's what she did. That was her whole thing. And she had no concept of how she was going to live off of $10,000 a month. Now
which for some people is amazing income.
Yeah.
But for some people, like, I'm poor, only 10,000 a month.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be like, oh my gosh, I hit the jackpot. I don't even need to work another day of my life. It's amazing. But for her lifestyle was completely destroyed. And it was because when they developed this trust, she did not develop the ability to work. And I try to tell people this all the time. You might be poor, you might be struggling, but you're free when you know how to work. You don't have to rely on a trust. You don't have to rely on anything, because you know at the end of the day, like, last year for my tile company, it was a very difficult year. Real estate in America went shot down. 4 of my competitors in the city that I'm in, they went out of business. It's a very difficult year. And my partner, she's always she's terrified. Like, what if this collapses on us? What if we go out of business? And I say, then we go out of business. It doesn't matter. We know how to work.
Yeah.
Like me and you know how to make money. It's like, yeah, we might rack up a big debt and it might be difficult, but we know how to work. It's what people don't know how to work that have to fear.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't know how to do something, then you have to be scared. What my bank account, whatever it's up high or low. Oh, well, okay. I used to fear about that all the time, but now I've gotten to the thing of going, it doesn't matter. What's in here is what matters. Like,
yes, our knowledge, my ability. Yes.
Your
And
habits.
and this reminds me, Tyler, it's a great example. I had a really pleasure to like this country created something out of nothing, and their generation, of course, some of the local families who are wealthy or their parents created a lot of things. And I mean, I had some incredible conversation from some of the people who own real estate and buildings, and they said, I never saw my building, but it's always 100% rented. And I was like, how can someone own a building and doesn't even know which building they own? I mean, for me, that was a fascinating concept. But what was really sad for me is when we honestly sitting in front of each other and they bring us as some experts to tell them what to do with their money, right? They're like, I don't know. I just got a land. I got a house. I got a bill. I have this money. But like you said, it's the awareness. For me, $10,000 for someone who knows can build a really an empire and financial freedom with $10,000, knowing how to start investing in different areas. $50,000, like this lady. I mean, if she was actually educated to, okay, I'm having $50,000 trust, I can build billions out of 50,000 a month. Especially probably connections she had, right? And that's kind of the sad part of the story. It's not about the money. It's about what can you do with the knowledge you're having and ability. And I understand absolutely why you said like that for your children. I absolutely agree.
Yeah, so that's the key. So if you're in Dubai, you got to understand that they're going to go through a process. You have the parents now who were in the position where there was nothing, and they earned it. They know how to work. They know how to deal with struggle. But the dumbest thing that we do to our children is we take that experience away from the kids by just going, just give them whatever they need, pay for everything. Well, struggle is what develops you.
Yes.
Pain is what gets you to go do things. So when you're creating a trust, and in Dubai, you should be doing this for your kids, because that wealth is going to go away one day. Oil wells will dry up. It's going to go away. There's going to be a problem. And when that goes away, it's if you taught the kid how to work, then if the trust fund goes away, it doesn't matter. They know how to work. But if you just gave them money, then you've ruined them. Then it will be devastating. Then it will be this horrible situation. So like, I love what you're doing. It's like, well, okay, let's teach how to do this, but you got to write it up. That's what a trust is. If you're not around, you got to tell the trustee who you're putting in charge, what should I do with the money? They need to know that.
And I think all of us are guilty of thinking, this will lead me to my next question, like, oh, I'm young. And I mean, I personally don't have children yet, but I think you will support me, right? As soon as we can set up the trusts, right? So we can protect at least even something small that we have. Because I feel like we feel like, oh, I'm going to live, I'm still young, but we actually don't know how much time we have left. And then we are leaving our families with struggle of paying tax or dealing with certain things, our debts and things that we can actually prevent. So when should we write the will and the trust? Right away.
Yeah. I mean, you got to put it in place, especially if you have kids. That's the moment where you have to be responsible enough to realize, if I'm gone, there has to be a plan put together. You own a business, you owe it to your employees to have a plan in place. I deal with this, during COVID, the doctor across the street here, he passed away. And the nurse came over a few days later to talk to us, going, hey, your guys are probate and estate planning attorneys. Our doctor's passed away. We don't know how to do payroll. He handled payroll. We have no access to any of the bank accounts. There's all these patient issues that are going on. And I mean, it was sad. I mean, we had to do an emergency probate hearing and get the documentation that they needed in order to get access to the bank accounts to pay payroll and do everything. But it was such a disaster for those employees because some of them missed mortgage payments because it took us a few weeks to get into a court.
Yes.
Nothing was set up properly. And I can't tell you how many times that we have this happen where business owners, if you have a partnership with anybody else, you guys need to sit down and talk about, well, when I pass away, what's going to happen? Because in most situations, your partner's spouse is now your business partner, and your partner's spouse has no idea what's going on. Are you married?
Me, no, I'm not. Yeah.
Not yet. Okay. So one day you're going to get married and you're going to not know, you're not going to have a clue what your spouse really does. You're going to be like, what do you do? And like, yeah, it's because they live a whole different life outside of you at work. And like, they can tell you all day long, but you really don't know until you work, you do the same thing, but like, that's going to happen. And like, so if all of a sudden you were married to someone, they passed away and they ran a business, and then they said, okay, now you got to run the business. You got to do the part your spouse was doing. I can't do that. So that has to be planned out. You have to think everybody passes away. It will happen. This is not a make-believe thing. It's not something you should fear. It's just a process of every we all go through. And when that happens, the people who are left over, you need to think outside of yourself and go, okay, I need to make sure that there's some type of transition or plan for them in place to help them out. Because if you don't, then you wing it. And I don't know if you've ever experienced a family member passing away and having to handle all that, but it's a disaster. Like one big issue, for example, your situation, you're building a podcast. That's a business.
Yes.
And it's going to be worth something. And a lot of podcasts rely on social media. That's how you get a reach out there. Well, social media has a whole different system of how do you transfer your social media accounts to your loved ones, because it might be generating money. Some people are making a fortune off of Instagram or TikTok. Well, Instagram, the way that they handle it, if you tell them that someone's passed away, they memorialize the account and you're no longer allowed to log in and collect those payments. There's nothing I can do as an attorney once that happens. So not giving someone passwords to get into your account, that could be a loss of hundreds of thousands of dollars for some people, because that's what it's generating yearly, because they've created a great Instagram or TikTok account. So not understanding those things are devastating, especially with social media. It's become this.
Yeah, and I actually never thought that social media can be part of our trust. I mean, now first time you're opening this concept for me, and I'm sure for many listeners, but that's absolutely true. I mean, so many businesses and e-commerce businesses live off Instagram and live off this. So somebody from your family or your friends, or even if you don't have a family, if something happened, you can continue that business and benefit from it, right? And really, personally, I never thought of that, and that's an amazing point. So thank you for that.
Yeah, so it's thinking through all that stuff, because we live in such a different world right now, where we have this digital world that's sprung up, and most people are living in that digital world more than they're living in the real world. And like, to me, one of the most valuable things is, okay, you have your money, fine, great. It's your social media accounts. Like I post on Facebook and Instagram for what is called what is that, the it's like the reminders of what happened like a year ago. You can go in there.
Yeah, memories. Yeah.
Memories. That's it. Yeah.
Yes.
I do it purely for that because I post my pictures of kids and videos and everything. Because I go in there and just, okay, what happened 3 years ago, 4 years ago? I absolutely love it. It's like one of my favorite things of all time is that they did this. But I want my kids to have that. Like, I want them, they're 80 years old. Hopefully these platforms stay up. Hopefully they're like, hey, remember, look at this video. I mean, think how awesome that would be. I mean, I'm 40, so we didn't have that. I mean, how awesome would that be right now to be able to go look at when you're 5 years old? And, I just reposted one of them with all my little boys, like fighting with the Wii remotes. I'm like, I forgot most of my youth, but they won't. They'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that. That was so funny. They can have it because it's being preserved in the social media accounts. And that's going to be, they're going to want that far more than they're going to care about, my whatever money. I mean, they're sure, of course, they're going to love money that they get, but
yeah, don't lie to yourself, Tyler. Like, they're not going to love Facebook more than money. Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably
that's what you wish. You're like, I wish they love the memories more than money, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so it's like it's a transition. You'll love the money, but as time goes on, you'll you
learn that money cannot buy memories.
Yeah, and it's I tell people all the time. It's like, think of someone you've loved that's passed away a long time ago, and like if you had videos of them and your interactions, if you had money, you'd pay a lot of money to get that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Taylor, as we have to wrap up now, I would like for you just to share with listeners about your book. Should I write a will or a trust, or should I have a will or a trust? And where they can buy the book, we'll make sure to put a link in the description of this episode so they can learn more about this topic. And then, of course, depends where you are in the world, look for an expert who knows the rules and the laws of that country, so it helps you set the same.
So it's called Do I Need a Will or a Trust? And I'm almost done with the second edition of it because so many things have changed. Like, I'm putting social media stuff. One of the big things that I'm trying to get done right now is it's financially difficult for most people in the world. And it's what we refer to as multi-generational living. How to save money by coming together as a family. And learning how to live together and cutting your costs. So,
that sounds super helpful. So I'm for sure getting your book, Taylor. Thank you for being here today, taking the time and sharing all your knowledge with us.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on. And you ever need a guest in the future, just let me know.
Absolutely. Thank you everyone for listening. I'm sure you got so much valuable information. I know I have. Make sure to remember to like the episode, download, subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. And as I always say, share it with at least one person that can benefit from this information, because that's why we are here. Thank you everyone for listening, and I will see you in the next episode.